Xi's claims have evolved from long-established and now widely held Chinese elite perceptions of nefarious American motives in relation to what Beijing calls the Taiwan question. China publicly acknowledged for the first time that it successfully launched an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean on Wednesday, affirming its ongoing military readiness and strategic capabilities. The missile was launched at 8:44 a.m. and accurately reached its predetermined target area in the high seas of the Pacific. An ICBM typically has a range greater than 5,500 kilometers (3,420 miles) and is designed to carry nuclear warheads. China's latest ICBM is known to be DF-41, which first came into service in 2017 and has an operational range of up to 12,000 to 15,000 kilometers (7,460 to 9,320 miles), capable of reaching the US mainland, according to the Chinese Ministry of Defense. This exercise is part of the Rocket Force's annual military training agenda, designed to rigorously evaluate the performance of its equipment and the operational proficiency of its troops. The ministry highlighted that all related international parties were duly notified prior to the launch, underscoring China's commitment to maintain transparency in its military operations. The Chinese Defense Ministry said the launch was a routine part of annual military training for the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force and was not directed against any country. The launch effectively tested the performance of weapons and equipment and the training level of the troops, and achieved the expected goal. The People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, which oversees the country's conventional and nuclear missiles, has been tasked with modernizing China's nuclear forces to deter developments such as improved US missile defenses, better surveillance capabilities, and strengthened alliances. Some analysts, however, argue the speed of China's nuclear build-up goes beyond a credible minimum deterrence. The Chinese military has emphasized that the Central Military Commission, headed by President Xi Jinping, is the only nuclear command authority. China, which has been frequently criticized by the US for the opacity of its nuclear build-up, scrapped nuclear talks with Washington in July over US arms sales to Taiwan. The Biden administration appears to be following what some are calling the porcupine strategy, whereby Taiwan is so well provisioned with weapons that any attempt by China to invade and occupy the country would prove extremely difficult and costly. A recent Financial Times report on comments Chinese President Xi Jinping made to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in 2023 is raising concerns among foreign policy and defense experts. Particularly troubling was Xi's extraordinary claim that the United States was goading China to invade Taiwan, while Xi was refusing to take the bait. The comments have prompted fears of a warped decision-making environment in Xi's increasingly insular inner circles, one that could lead to a catastrophic strategic miscalculation. Yet the more troubling reality is that rather than reflecting niche views, Xi's claims have evolved from long-established and now widely held Chinese elite perceptions of nefarious American motives in relation to what Beijing calls the Taiwan question. At the center of these is the decades-old, frequently repeated, claim that Washington is using Taiwan to contain China. Since the end of the Cold War, Washington started to see China as its biggest rival or potential rival, and, for the sake of maintaining US hegemony, wanted to leverage the Taiwan question to obstruct China's rise. Precisely how Taiwan is supposed to have been used for these ends has been subject to various explanations. Many earlier sources focused on geostrategic containment and Taiwan-US military cooperation. But in recent years, there has been a greater emphasis on China's diplomatic, and especially economic containment. The latter has played a key role in shaping Chinese views that a war in the Taiwan Strait would benefit Washington's containment strategy. A common thread in Chinese economic containment narratives is that US provocations such as selling weapons to the island, or having members of Congress visit Taiwan, are intended to prompt bellicose rhetoric or retaliatory military exercises from Beijing. Washington, the narrative goes, then uses Beijing's responses to hype up the China threat to damage China's reputation, enabling the United States to justify, and solicit broader international support for, measures that damage China's economic interests. China claims that Taiwan, a self-governing democracy, is part of China and has vowed to reunite it with the mainland by force if necessary. US President Joe Biden recently suggested that the United States would directly intervene militarily if needed on behalf of Taiwan in the event of a conflict with China. The Biden administration has notified Congress of its plan to offer more than $1 billion in weapons and military support to Taiwan as leaders in the Senate advanced legislation for even more armaments in the coming years, drawing new expressions of concern from China. China scrapped nuclear talks with Washington in July over U.S. arms sales to Taiwan. According to the report, China has continued to develop solid-fuel ICBM silos across several inland locations including Yuman in Gansu, Hami in Xinjiang, and Hangzhou in Inner Mongolia. The total number of new silos is estimated at 320, with Yuman housing 120, Hami 110, and Hangzhou 90. Further, the bulletin's report also indicated significant enhancements to the older liquid-fueled Dongfeng 5 ICBM silos, projecting an increase in their numbers from 18 to 48 upon completion of these upgrades. China has more than 500 operational nuclear warheads in its arsenal, of which approximately 350 are ICBMs, and will probably have over 1,000 warheads by 2030, the Pentagon estimated last year. China's military is constructing hundreds of secret silos for land-based ICBMs, the Pentagon said in the report. That compares to 1,770 and 1,710 operational warheads deployed by the US and Russia, respectively. The Pentagon said that by 2030, much of Beijing's weapons will likely be held at higher readiness levels. China publicly acknowledged for the first time that it successfully launched an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean on Wednesday. This launch comes amidst reports from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists earlier this year, detailing China's expansion and upgrading of its ICBM capabilities. Xi Jinping's statement reflects long-established and now widely held Chinese elite perceptions of US motives in the Taiwan question. China, which has been frequently criticized by the US for the opacity of its nuclear buildup, scrapped nuclear talks with Washington in July over US arms sales to Taiwan.